Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is Jorianne, the Coffee Psychic, with your psychic connection here at Blog Talk Radio. Oh my God, we have got such a wonderful, wonderful show tonight. We have a super guest, LeBain, who is the author of Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo. I've got book 5 right here with me that Ella had sent to me. Kind of a funny story. Ella and I had met a couple of years ago at MUFON, and I purchased the book, and one of my friends wanted to borrow it, and I could not part with this book. And a lot of you guys know that I had a fire, and so this beautiful book perished in the fire. It's one of those things where I should have just said, here, my friend, take my book, read. And I didn't, and so Ellen was kind enough to send me another book. So I'm very excited, and we're not going to wait any longer here. Let's welcome Ella to the show. Ella, are you there?
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Jorianne. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my God. My greatest pleasure to have you. I know when we met a couple of years ago, with everything that you've written, everything that you had on your table at MUFON, I was so excited. And then I actually misplaced your information. And I'm just grateful that I was on your mailing list and we got reconnected. And I'm very excited to have you on tonight. So thank you for taking your time to be with us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was good to reconnect with you. And I'm glad you got your book so quickly. That's great.
See, it's not snail mail anymore, right?
Yeah. Sometimes they get it right.
That's right. So I wanna share with our listeners, they can actually see you. They can find you on YouTube. Okay, I've been watching a little bit of some of your presentations on YouTube. You were recently in MUFON at a presentation. At a conference, November 18th, it showed 2023. So I wasn't able to get through everything, but it's really astounding the amount of information that you have gathered through your journey on the planet. You know, it says that you are a renowned biblical scholar. You are an experiencer of ETs, you're a UFO researcher. I know you have created, so far written 6 books. Now, do they all have the same title, Who's in the Cosmic Zoo, and then they have subtitles? Is that how you're writing your information?
Yes, it's a book series, and the Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo is the book series, and then each book has a number and a subtitle.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I don't know, coming from my paranormal point of view, when I was listening to the show that I was watching, again, paranormal, and I know you're a researcher yourself, I heard a voice come in at 1 minute 56 seconds to 1 minute 57 seconds. It's a male's voice, and it's a weird voice and says, like that. So I don't know if you want to look back at that, or if when people are watching you on YouTube, and I'm not sure where else they can find you. But you have a lot of videos out because there's so much information here that people really need to hear. So where else can they find you outside of YouTube on videos and stuff?
Oh, well, I'm pretty active on Facebook. I have 3 Facebook pages. One, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, which is just a public page. You could just hit the like button and and I post a lot of videos on that one. And then my friend's page, LeBain, and then there's a fan page, LeBain. It's kind of all connected. I just put my events and interviews and stuff like that on that page. And then the other one, I just post pretty much daily about what's going on in the heavens, because we are living through unprecedented times and we're seeing signs in the heavens daily. So there's stuff going on with the sun and the moon. And like, for instance, today the news was we've got 3 moons. How about that?
Wow.
And here we are talking on a full supermoon. So, and this is all part of the End Times Prophecies, and also what is part of the system that we share. The solar system is paired with another solar system, and we're getting a lot of space junk, asteroids, comets, fireballs, meteorites. We've got a comet in the sky that is being seen with the naked eye pretty much everywhere at sunset.
Wow.
So, exciting times.
Well, this
but
is
in answer
what I
to
want
your
people
question,
to know.
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to answer your question about, I guess you were looking at the Phoenix MUFON presentation, and that video was done by them. Okay, they produced that, and they did everything, so they just sent it to me, and I just put it on YouTube. So they put some music in there. I don't know if you're hearing somebody's voice, but there was like a whole crowd of people there, too. So sometimes that kind of leaks over. Just saying. I'll have to
and
go
that's
and
cool,
look
and
at
thank
what
you for that.
saying.
I want you to listen to it, though. And then give me your feedback.
Of course.
And
thank you.
So I want people to know your background, though. I want people to know, really, they say you were born in New York, but you've got, I believe you were, I don't know how long you were raised in Israel, but you have all of this training, learning how to, so what is the biblical Hebrew degree that you got? Because it's not just for you to read the Bible, but you really know the original Bible and the original translation of what was meant, not just for like part of what you were saying. For us over here in America reading a Bible, I know that the Bible has been revised so many times, it's just ridiculous that you really lose the true translation. But can you speak to us about that?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. The Bible's been manipulated many times. So I moved, I was born in New York City, and I moved to Israel when I was 15 to complete my education there, and I graduated from Sde Boker, which is in the Negev Desert, which was a department of the Ben-Gurion Institute, because David Ben-Gurion, the original Prime Minister of Israel, established. So I was in the Midreshet, the school side, and then there was the kibbutz side, and then there's the university in Beersheba. So I was connected to that, and I got a degree in social sciences and biology. But you couldn't pass. You couldn't do anything without Bible. So that was one of our classes. Just like here in America, you can't pass without gym. You couldn't pass without Bible there. So we had to learn, Hebrew and biblical Hebrew, Hebrew linguistics, and Hebrew language. And so I just learned how to decipher words. Hebrew itself is a cosmic language. I connect these dots in my book series. The 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet are representative of the 22 major constellations in our Milky Way. So that's what the Mazarot is about. The Mazarot is Hebrew for constellations. So it's basically the Greek zodiac. The word zodiac is Greek. In Hebrew, it's Mazarot, same thing. And so that kind of blew my mind. And they call them fire letters because each letter comes alive and it has numerical value as well as cosmic and all kinds of meanings and attachments. And it's like a root like of a tree, and then it branches out and all the many words that you can make from it. So it's a language of physics. So it makes sense. It's logical. There aren't too many, exceptions like we have in English. So, so and the Bible was originally written in Hebrew Aramaic, which is the original language, but then in 750 AD, the Masoretic Jews who were held captive in Babylon rewrote the Torah, which is what Christians call the Old Testament Bible, and they put the vowels in it to make it, easier to read, but they also manipulated the name of God. So I expose all that in my second book, Who is God, because so many things got lost in translations, literally, as well as the name of God. And then there were many false names and counterfeit names and pretenders that kind of grew out of that. And I proved through history that they did that purposely because they felt like it was their role to protect the name of God from being misused by the Gentiles, from being invoked and said in vain. So they manipulated the vowels, and they took the vowels from the word Elohim and Adonai, and they put it on the Tetragrammaton. So that's why the Church of Rome, years later, started using a false name, which they called Jehovah, but there is no Jehovah because there's no J in the Hebrew language. And even if you put the Yud in, which is the Y sound, it makes it Jehovah, it's still not accurate. So the name, the true pronunciation of the God of Israel is Yahuwah. And I found something that really, like when things connect and you connect a dot, it's like, oh, wow, it's like a neuron gets connected in your brain. And it was like, and when I stumbled upon this here in America, here in the Native American tribes, the Cherokee tribe is the only Native American tribe that has been, through oral tradition, keeping the true name and the correct pronunciation of the God of Israel. And they have been passing it down to their children for generations here. And when I stumbled upon that, I thought, so I wrote a whole book. My fourth book is called Covenants, which connects the dots to the lost tribes of Israel, where they are on the planet today, and, how basically, it's my humble attempt to lance the boils of racism, because let's face it, we're all one race, the human race. We have many different ethnicities, but we are all one race. And I went into this and saw that there were so many different tribes and tribalism and where everybody is. And that's how I found out about the Cherokees. And I thought, well, they came over here because there were two diasporas from ancient Israel, ancient Mesopotamia, and they came over from the first one. So it made sense to me. So, I mean, the research is there. Other people can look at it and, cross-reference it if they want. I mean, I encourage people to do their own research as well.
Well, if they start picking up one of your books, I'm telling you, they are going to be flooded, and I believe confronted, because, when I'm listening to some of your information, I think book 2 is where I'd really want to dig deep into. You were talking about all the different, the aliens and the gods and all the different characters. Let me rephrase that. All the different characters out there that are in the Bible. And when you're separating, not God, we're not talking about, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but the difference between the gods and the lords. Can you speak to people about that? Because I'll tell you something. I can tell you for sure some of this might be confronting to some people as they really hold tightly onto their belief systems. And and then, I mean, where do angels fit in? Where do aliens fit in? Can you speak to us about that? I mean, that's pretty big, Ella.
Yeah, well, those are good questions, Jorianne. Yes, there is a cast of characters that are lost in English translations that are actually in the original Hebrew Bible, which still exists today. And you can, I unpack that through the Hebrew. So, for instance, in English, every English Bible, and then you take the English Bible, and then they translate it into Spanish and French and all the other languages, and the same mistranslation just gets carried through. So back to the logic of Hebrew. Hebrew is very logical. Everything is either male, feminine. It's either masculine or feminine. There's only two genders, okay? So that might, provoke people there, but this is how it is. It's set up that way, and you're either singular or plural, okay? So every word has a singular, either masculine or feminine, singular, or plural, masculine or feminine. So the word God, G-O-D, which is translated into English, is really mistranslated in English because it is not translated with the plurality. Okay, so that is a deception. It's a misnomer. It's a misunderstanding, and it creates a false belief. Okay, so yes, there are many areas in and when I say we're talking the Torah, the Old Testament, there are many areas where there is a singular God. Okay, but every time the plural shows up, which is the Hebrew word Elohim, which is plural for gods with an S at the end, okay, the English translation translates it to God. So when an English person is reading the Bible from beginning to end, they just think that it's the same God. God said this, God said that, the Lord said this, the Lord said that, and there's no differentiation between which God is speaking and how many gods are speaking, because they take the plurality away from it. And and also the Lord, okay? So the name of the God of Israel, which I said earlier, is written 7,000 times. His name appears 7,000 times throughout the entire Old Testament, but it is never translated in any English Bible as his name. It's only translated as the Lord, okay? So when you see the words the Lord, that actually is the God of Israel, who is Yahuwah. When you see the word God, those are usually the words from Hebrew, Elohim, which isn't one, it's not singular, it's plural. So like in Book 2, Who is God, I unpack some of the famous Bible stories that have been completely misunderstood, and because of these mistranslations, and that's why I call it a cast of characters. So like let's take the famous Bible story about Abraham and Isaac. So when it says when the Lord, this is what it says, but that's not what it actually, this is what people think it says, but that's not actually what it says. They think that God told Abraham to test him. Oh, if you love me, if you really love me so much, then sacrifice your miracle baby that nobody believed was going to happen post-menopausal. Okay, let's face it. Right. Sarah was 90 years old. She didn't think she could even have a child. She gives her husband. I thought she was 86. Right. So she wants to please her husband and says she wants to give him a child. So she gives her maidservant to him so that they can, make a baby, because she didn't believe. When the angel told her she was going to have a child, she didn't believe it. She was just in unbelief. And so Hagar ends up having Ishmael, but then Sarah gets pregnant miraculously and ends up with Isaac. And it's a dysfunctional family story, let's face it, okay? So this voice, so it says in the original Hebrew that it was a voice. It didn't say whose voice it was. It says a voice, he heard a voice. Now, how many of us, you and I both, especially you have psychic gifts, you hear voices. So how can you discern which voice you're hearing unless they come and they say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I have something to tell you? Sometimes you just hear a voice, and you have to discern whose voice that is. Is it the God of this world, who the Bible calls Satan, who is the pretender, the deceiver, the one who comes to pretend like he's God? Or is it really the voice of God? Okay, so this is what happened to Abraham, and what happened to Abraham happens to all of us. We all go through this. We have to learn how to discern. So Abraham says he heard a voice, didn't say whose voice it was. And the voice said, well, if you love God so much, sacrifice your miracle baby, your only child, your only son. Take him up and, put him on the altar and sacrifice him to God. So Abraham was like scared, and he's like, like I don't want to offend the Lord. So he takes Isaac, and Isaac, thinks, we're going to go sacrifice an animal, because that's what they did back then. And he goes with his father, and he has no idea that he was the sacrifice, and he puts him on the mount, and can you imagine? I mean, the trauma of Isaac. And then, so the original scripture says, okay, so the name of God doesn't even appear in this entire story until the very end, when he sends an angel to save Isaac. So then when Isaac's getting ready to, and he's, tying him up and getting ready to do this, then it says, then the Lord sends an angel of the Lord to save Isaac. And he does, and he provides an animal in the bush so that he can sacrifice the animal instead, and Isaac gets to live. Okay? So this story has been misinterpreted. It's also created a lot of false religions because they don't have the words correctly. Nowhere does it say that it was the God of Israel. It says it was a voice. And then the original Hebrew talks about the Elohim. So the Elohim is a group of gods. So and I prove this through scripture, through connecting all these dots all the way up to the book of Job. Okay, so the book of Job is very revealing because it tells us the hierarchy, and it also reveals that there's courts in the court of heaven where the Lord sits. So it says that the Elohim went to the courts of heaven, and Satan was among them. So Satan is with the Elohim. So that's exactly what happened with the story with Abraham. It was one of the voices of the Elohim. It wasn't the Lord. It was one of the lesser gods with a small g, and Satan was among them. And furthermore, I proved that voice.
Can I ask you? Do they get Satan and Lucifer confused? Because Lucifer was a fallen angel, but then they have Lucifer. Go ahead.
Yes, they're both fallen angels. There's a group of fallen angels. In fact, the Book of Enoch names them. And Sataniel is one of them. So the word Satan in Hebrew is adversary. So there are that's why in my books I pluralize them, because there's many Satans, there's many rebels, there's many adversaries that go against God. But there is a leader of the pack, for sure. It's a hierarchy, and I proved that it's sort of run like a militaristic hierarchy with, lords and lesser lords and, archangels, archdemons, princes, all of that. But,
and I can tell you doing exorcisms that there is a hierarchy of the negative spirits out there, positively.
Yes, and it's good that you asked about Lucifer, because that's another big mistranslation that was imposed on English Bibles. So the original Hebrew doesn't even have the word Lucifer in it. The word name Lucifer is Latin. So the Church of Rome had commissioned Jerome, who they call now Saint Jerome, to rewrite the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, in Latin. So he was the first one to do that. So he went into the Hebrew and he translated it into Latin. And when he did that, there's a chapter 14 of the book of Isaiah is the only place in the Bible that actually has this one name. And that this name is a name that the God of Israel gave to the Satan character, okay, because he has many names. Okay, and nobody really knows what his original name was in heaven before he fell, because nobody calls him that anymore, you know. So he was he became Satan, who is the Hasatan, which is the adversary, the accuser, the rebel. Okay, so God is rebuking him, and there's like all these rebukes, and then he calls him Halel. Okay, and Halel is the antonym for hallelu, which means to praise, right? That's where we get the word hallelujah from, which means to praise Yah, which is Yahuwah, which is God. So he's rebuking him in this verse in Isaiah 14, and he calls him Halel, and he's like the son of the morning, and you know you've tried to ascend above the Most High, and you did all these 5 I wills, and he's like really like waging war against heaven, and he calls him Halel, which literally translates to he who boasts in a foolish rage. Okay?
Wow, yes.
He who boasts in a foolish, so it's like all this arrogance and all this anger and all this stuff, right? So Jerome, he comes over to that area of the Bible, and I don't know if he did this purposely or he just didn't understand and it was like unintentional, but he completely twisted all these words around, and the son of the morning star, which has to do with the light, so he used the word Lucifer. He put the word Lucifer, which in Latin literally translates to light bearer. Okay, it means light, like Luciferos from that phosphorus, and you know it's like an element. So he put that word in for Halel. Okay, so how does he who boasts in a foolish rage end up to be the bearer of light?
Yeah.
So do you see how there was there was a deception there, and that ends up in the English Bible. So it even goes one step further, because the Church of Rome, they actually believe that Lucifer is Christ. In fact, if you listen to...
Oh, my God, where did you hear that? I've never heard that before.
Oh, my God, you can just go on their YouTube channel and listen to their Mass. They invoke Lucifer. They pray to Lucifer. They invoke him in the Mass. And they say it in Latin, so most people don't understand Latin.
Whoa.
But there it goes, right over everybody's head. And I unpack this, like, in detail, especially in this book that I just published, Heaven's Witness. I have, like, 3 chapters about exposing the Vatican, because they are, and this blew my mind, Jorianne. I mean, I'm doing all this research on disclosure, UFO disclosure, and the Vatican? Oh, the Vatican. Why is the Vatican in play here? The Vatican wants to control the narrative. They want to be the leaders of the disclosure movement, because, and this goes way back to World War II. They started, and I proved this. I listed all these different decrees and doctrines that they've been adding into their doctrine that just, you know, it's like these little blurbs in newspapers here and there. Most people don't pay attention to it, but it's reported. It's out there. And it just builds up and builds up, and now all of a sudden they're getting ready to baptize aliens. I kid you not, okay? The two, and so here's another dot. Here's another dot. 2 of the world's, this planet's most sophisticated Earth-based telescopes are owned by the Vatican. And guess what they mean?
I know some of this. Go ahead. Tell me the name. I know some of this already. And I know that they actually own a huge mountain out in the desert. The Vatican does. Yeah. Why is that? Go ahead.
That's right. They named their telescopes Lucifer.
Wow.
You can't make this stuff up. So, yes, you're right.
Scary.
They're out in the Tucson, Mount Graham in Tucson, Arizona, right there in the middle of the desert, as you rightly said. And then the other one is on Vatican Hill in Rome. And what are they doing? First of all, who controls these telescopes? The Jesuit priest astronomers. So they are astronomers who are Jesuit priests. They're like top of the hierarchy in the Vatican, okay? And that means that they have access to the hidden library, which is 53 miles long underground with all that stuff. But they also are tracking two things they're looking for: Nibiru and aliens. They're looking for aliens.
What is Nibiru? What is Nibiru?
Well, that's a whole big thing here.
Is that another hour?
Yeah, well, no, I'll unpack it. I'll make it.
No, believe me, we need like 5 hours to sit with you, Ella. Believe me, this is so.
No, it's fine.
This is so meaty and delicious. Yes.
No, it's no big deal. But I just want to finish one more point about these Jesuit priests. They both wrote a book. They wrote a book, and the book is called "Would You Baptize Aliens?" How would you baptize aliens? And now it's become church doctrine. It's Vatican doctrine. The Pope himself is getting ready. Yes, of course I'll baptize an alien. So first of all, did anyone even ask the aliens if they want to be baptized? But this is something that this is very strange doctrine coming out of the Church of Rome. And so I connect these dots with the Bible prophecies, because the Bible prophecies puts the Church of Rome in a starring role in the end times, because they are the ones who prop up the Antichrist. I kid you not. Okay, so they are going to convince. They are what the Book of Revelation calls the false prophet, and it's the city that sits on 7 hills, which is Rome. Okay, so the end time war is all about the revived Roman Empire. So this is an important dot to connect here because of what's happening on the planet right now. So who is the revived Roman Empire? All these countries that the nations that the Roman Empire used to rule over are now Muslim. Okay, so is it any coincidence that the present Pope has created what is now called Chrislam, where he believes that Christians and Muslims should become one, so much so that he has invited the Muslims into the Vatican to pray 3 times a day, which they do, and that's been going on for a few years now. Okay, so the revived Roman Empire. The revived Roman Empire. All those, and I list all these nations, they're all listed in the Bible. Some of them have their ancient names, so it's very easy to see who they are today, such as ancient Persia is today's Iran. Ancient Timon is today's Yemen. There's a Magog, which is that whole area of the Scythians, so it's like where Turkey and Russia is today. So there's, I unpack all these names, so we identify them. They're the same geography, they're the same people, but these particular 10 nations that the Bible lists that basically wage war against Israel in the end time war of Gog and Magog, which is World War III, which has already begun. These are all jihadist nations. So that is to distinguish between, there's 2 sides of Islam. There's the secular Muslims, and they don't really care about the jihad. They're not into that. They're just like Catholics and Jews. They're just Muslims. It's like cultural. It's not like, they're not like fanatical religious theocrats. The jihads are different, and in fact, there's wars amongst them. Between the Sunnis and the Shias. So, like Persia, it used to be secular. Now it was taken over by jihadists. So Iran is run by theocracy, Islamic theocracy, and so is Turkey. Turkey used to be secular. Turkey is now theocratic. So all these countries are in play. They're in the prophecy, and they're going against Israel. And that's why it says that the revived Roman Empire, which is ruled by Rome, which is and then the false prophet, which is the Pope, which is the Vatican, props up this end time Antichrist, who emerges out of this end time war and makes peace between Israel and her enemies. So this being, who hasn't been revealed yet, nobody knows who he is yet, but he's alive on the planet. He will bring peace between Israel and her enemies, and it'll be a false peace. The Bible says will last for 3.5 years. and everyone will think he's the Messiah because he's going to bring peace. And he's also going to bring fire down from heaven, which is biblical vernacular for alien technology. So we have, the book that you have, the book that I sent to you, The Heavens, has all about the real Star Wars, which is the alien technology. And that's what our American disclosure is about right now, is that we're going to have another level of disclosure coming in November, where there's a whistleblower that's going to come before Congress, that's going to testify about a secret government space program, government space program called Immaculate Constellation, which, you know, we're going to learn all about that next month when Congress meets on this. So this is another, you know, moving the peg forward towards disclosure. So alien technology is going to be, and you know what they've said, just to kind of catch your audience up, is that they basically said that, yeah, we've been reverse engineering alien craft from crashes. So Israel is, and this it just kind of went below the radar in many respects, because everyone was under the spell of the pandemic, you know, in 2020 with COVID. Remember that? How can you back when you forget that one?
I surely do.
So, November, that was wild. November, December of 2020 was a huge disclosure that came out of Israel. Okay, so Chaim Eshed, who was the retired space chief of Israel, like 88 years old, and I don't know what it is about these octogenarians, but they seem to come out and want to spill the beans when they're in their 80s, because they kind of feel like, well, you know, they're seeing their immortality. You know, they're not immortal. I mean, their mortality, and they know that they don't have much time left, and they feel like they need to let people know what's going on. So that's what he did. So he talked to the newspaper in Israel, which is like the equivalent of the New York Times here, the Yedidot Achronot, and he basically said, yes, the United States and Israel are in working agreements with the Galactic Federation, and President Trump knows about it. Okay, and we've been doing joint missions with American NASA astronauts on Mars. Okay, and you can't make this stuff up. He did come out and say this, and he wrote a book about it. Okay, so
I thought somebody said we have a station up on Mars, don't we? That we actually have a station up on Mars that people are living in?
Yeah. I published this in 2012 with a whistleblower who I interviewed, and he actually edited my chapter, so I got it right, so I didn't miss anything. On Mars, I gave him the whole chat. I said, I want to get it straight. So Andy Basiago, who's an attorney now, but he was part of this secret program in 1980 that was called Project Pegasus, and the Mars Jump Room, and they were experimenting with time travel, and they time traveled to Mars. And he and 14 others, which are all listed in my book, all those names, 2 of them, and you can't make this stuff up, actually worked in the Obama administration, and one of them is Barack Obama. Okay, so he was going by the name Barry Soetoro back then. And his mother and his grandfather were running the program, because his grandfather was a CIA, lifelong CIA career agent. So his daughter, who is his mother, was kind of running the kids. And Andy was the same age, because we were all born in 1961. And Barack Obama was born in 1961, and Andy was born a few weeks later, and they were all in the same class, and he exposed all this. Wow. So I interviewed him, and the whole thing is in my first book, book 1, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, in the chapter on life on Mars. And so when the whistleblower, Chaim Eshed, the Israeli space chief, came out and said this in 2020, it was vindication for Andy, okay, because people laughed at him and mocked him that he said such crazy, outlandish things, but they're true. And why would the Israeli space chief make this up? And then I found out, Jorianne, even one step further, that in 2015, okay, Israel wanted to disclose this. They wanted to disclose the Galactic Federation, but they were heavily, influenced not to. So basically the Galactic Federation told them, and this is what he published in his book, was that people are not ready. We're not ready.
Right.
They don't want them to know because we're still not ready. So, I mean, it's like when you piece it all together, I mean, this has been going on for a really long time. The governments of this planet, we're not the only ones. Americans and Israelis, Russians know about it. The Russians have known about it for a long time. England has known about it for a long time.
Wouldn't you say, though, too, with a lot of the alien connections that we have that we know are out there, that this is why we've had so much technological advancements over such a short period of time?
Yes.
That's what I was told.
I agree with that. Yeah, well, this all goes back to Eisenhower. There was a treaty between him and the Greys, but actually him and Nixon were approached by the good guys, and the Nordics, the blondes, the human-looking aliens, ETs that are on this planet. So you can't really call them ETs because they're here, right? They're not extraterrestrial, they're here. But so intraterrestrial maybe. But they were approached by them first, and they said, because this was after World War II, and the bombs were dropped, which kind of woke up the inner Earth people, and was like, whoa, they have that ability to do that. We better get to them before they destroy all of us. So they have a stake in this because we share the planet with them. So I've been saying this since 2012 that they're not from outer space. Not that there aren't ETs out there, there are. But the ones that we've been dealing with are here. They've been here all along. They're in our history. They're written in stone. They're in the scriptures. They live inside the planet. They come from inside the Earth, okay? And so when the bombs dropped in Japan, it woke everybody up. So they were approached by these human ETs, human aliens, and they said, we will give you the technology that you can make sure that no one in your country would ever have to be sick or injured. It's like healing technology that everyone could have and benefit from. But we want you to disarm your nuclear weapons. And that was the deal. And they said no deal. They said no. They weren't going to do that. Okay, everybody was all like, coming off of the war, and they, were all paranoid and all the stuff that happened. So they said no. So they retreated, the good ETs, who offered all this wonderful healing technology that we never got. And instead, the other guys came, and they said, okay, and the Greys, and they met with him, and they talked him into an agreement for the technology. They said, we'll give you all this technology if you allow us to abduct just a handful of people. Here's a list of 50 people. That's all we're going to do.
Right.
And they didn't keep their agreement.
Yep.
They didn't stop at 50. They went all over and they did everybody. And everybody's been abducted at one point or another. So people have to ask the question, okay, because the word abducted is a little misleading because it connotes kidnapping. When we say, like we have a child abduction, the child was kidnapped and they're gone and nobody knows where they are. So when the aliens do abductions, they put you back. So people have to ask the question, why? Why do they put you back? Why don't they just take you? Okay? And this is the quintessential.
Have you been abducted?
Yes.
I have to ask you. Okay, yes. I know I've had like a couple of few experiences myself that I look back over. And so looking at your material, you know, you've had your experiences, and it's not just how you got into all of this, but weren't you young when that first happened to you?
Yes, 2 years old.
Wow.
I was 2. And the only reason that I have memory, I mean, I have memory of my own, but I have memory that was sort of like talked about because my parents used to talk about it all the time. So they used to find me upside down in my crib with nosebleeds. And they were, you know, the sheets were bloody and all that. So they always talked about it. So I remembered it. You know what I mean? And then it was years until I figured out what was going on. But I grew up with like this little BB thing, like it was like the size of a BB in my right nostril. And yeah, and I always had like sinus problems and allergies and you know, just kind of miserable.
Did they ever remove that?
And yes, well, not through human surgeons, but when I you know, met the Lord and I was delivered of it by Yeshua. He you know, he took it away. I had a near-death experience, and I saw Yeshua. I've seen him 6 times in the near-death experience, and I just, you know, had like physical changes. I mean, a lot of things changed after that, and the implant was gone because I believe it was an implant, and
it sounds like it. Yep.
And it was put in through the right nostril. And I did some research, and this stuff I've also shared in my books and in my presentations with others, you know, for other people who have gone through the same thing, because there's different abduction programs. Not everybody has exactly the same thing. So I was repeatedly used, you know, for the hybrids, you know, as an incubator. You know, I had all these like mock phantom pregnancies, and I had miscarriages. And I found this paper that was written by this PhD who was doing all this research, that these implants, when they were put in the nose, they were used for the hybridization program. And I went, oh, wow, that's me, right? So, but it stopped, okay? So the implant is gone. They don't bother me anymore. I'm postmenopausal. I'm no use for them anyway, but out of it and proud of it, you know?
Amen.
So, but it does a number on you on other levels, you know what I mean? Because it creates other things, you know, like paranoia, and they do all this like kind of, they paralyze you, where you have like called sleep paralysis, where, you know, you can't move, but you're wide awake.
I've had that.
You know, all this kind of like, and it's fear. It's basically, and they use a type of hypnosis, which is like hypnagogy, which is like one level deeper, and that's how they kind of wipe your memory temporarily of whatever they're doing, but your subconscious remembers everything. So you can access that at some point. And, you know, when the implants are gone.
Through hypnosis, too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I got liberated, and it took me a while to heal from all the issues, but I got delivered. I got liberated. I'm healed. I don't have any of the allergies anymore. I mean, I was like a lifelong, couldn't have dairy, couldn't have gluten. I was allergic to cats. I can't live without my cats now. They're all over me. I eat dairy. I eat gluten every day. I don't have the allergies anymore. So there was.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, Ella? So do you think with your implants and stuff, do you think that they were actually, do you feel with those miscarriages that those weren't really miscarriages, but that they were using you as an incubator, for the hybrid program? Like you may have been having babies and they just took them?
Yes, that is exactly what happened. And I woke up to that in October of 1995, where I had a miscarriage to the point where I ended up in the emergency room. So then it became documented by our medical doctors, and that's kind of when I woke up to what was happening. So like I got like kind of crampy, and I thought I was just getting ready to have my period. So I took, I think I took a Tylenol or something and went to bed and went to sleep. And I woke up and I saw these two short little, look like Casper the Friendly Ghost beings. They were grays, but they had big button, round black eyes, not the almond eyes. And they were standing at the foot of my bed. And it was almost like they were there to collect something. And then I got up and I didn't feel good, and I went to the bathroom, and everything just came out. And I looked and I was like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? And I called the doctors, the emergency room, my husband, and they said, oh, get a Ziploc bag and scoop it up. And I did. And we went to the emergency room, and they examined me and diagnosed everything. And they said that I miscarried. That's what they determined. And and they said, you're very lucky, because usually we have to do a DNC after miscarriages to make sure that all the tissue and everything is out. But everything is out. We don't have to do a DNC. We have everything intact. The only thing missing was the fetus.
Yes. I've got to tell you, I had a client come to me, and I haven't done hypnosis in a long time, but this woman came, and she was just panicking. And she said she was pregnant before she went to lunch. This is a true story. She was pregnant before she went to lunch. Something happened, and then she woke up, and the baby was gone.
Wow.
And she was completely beside herself. And,
this is what goes on.
It was pretty rough. Yep.
I knew what, I didn't exactly wake up to what was happening, consciously, until I went through what, all women go through after, whether it's a miscarriage or you actually give birth, you go through these hormonal changes. So it makes you cry, right? So I'm just sitting there blubbering, crying on the couch. Why is this happening to me? What happened? Da, 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 da. And in broad daylight, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, this being shows up on the edge of my couch, and it looked very sort of feminine, it had long, wispy, white hair, big almond-shaped blue eyes, like human blue eyes, almond-shaped. Okay. This very sort of pointy chin and pointy nose, and it just beamed this saying thank you. We're the reason. It's okay. They were just trying to calm me down and comfort me and say thank you. This is why this happened, because of us, and you'll understand one day. And I stopped crying, and then I kind of started to realize what was happening, and then I connected with some other people in my community, and I was still having these things that they call wise baby dreams. So even after that incident, I was still, I think they were taking me in my sleep to nurture these babies in their nurseries, because they would hand me these
so much
fetuses.
Before. Yes.
And they were all sort of swaddled up with, swaddled in cloth, but they had these really big heads, almost an adult, my husband, an adult man-sized head on these little fetus bodies, giving it to me to kind of cuddle and nurture and put into these bassinets, and then I would wake up. And, you wake up and you think, oh, well, because I hadn't had my first child yet, so I thought maybe this was the future. My husband and I were going to have a baby, and we did eventually, but it took me years to kind of clear all that stuff out to be able to give birth to a human child full term, and I did. So praise God, but it was a long journey to get from point A to point B, because I had to get rid of all the implants. I had to get rid of the residue and the stuff. And it was I didn't sign up for this.
No, but but listening to every single thing that you've gone through, and then this, you are a flood. It's like a dam has broken open, and you are a plethora of knowledge and information. So somewhere you signed up for something. And, many of us have had some alien experiences, and I've had some weird ones myself, but I appreciate you being vulnerable and letting us, sharing this stuff with us, because a lot of people don't even get it, and other people go like, no, it happened to me. So it's nice being able to share this so other people that have had these experiences can feel more comfortable and know that it is happening. It's happening to a lot of us. But I want to take you back to this. When I don't know how many races of aliens that we have. I thought it was like 40 different races of aliens that we have identified on the planet so far. Now, I could be way off on that. But you were talking about the reptilian empire. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that was what they look like, reptiles. I know I saw something like that one time that I had some weird experience, but I had like a healing from these aliens, believe it or not. But how many of the alien races do you personally know? And do you think that you've interacted more with the Greys, or who do you think you've had some experiences with?
Well, it's a confluence. So the Greys are servants, okay? So they're like messengers. They don't run anything. They're just like servants and messengers to go out, and they follow orders. And the guys, so like you and I, we have cell phones, we have computers, right? Mm-hmm. Anyone in the ET and the alien world, anyone can have a Gray. All right, a Gray is like a cybergenetic hybrid robot. And there's, in my book, I listed 35 different types of Grays alone. Okay, so a Gray is like a type, and I name it. I spell it Gray to differentiate it from the color gray, Grey, because there's white Grays, black Grays, tan Grays, beige Grays, green Grays, gray Grays. Okay, so there's all these different types of Grays. And all these races use them. They all use them because they're kind of cybergenetic. They're like hybrid. They're like sort of half biology and half artificial intelligence. Kind of, so they're programmed. And they operate very similar to like a beehive mentality where, there's one thought that goes out, they all get it. So I proved this in my first book based on several experiences and experiencers who have tested them and have told them to do things or threatened them. Like, oh, if you don't put that child down, my God is going to blow up your ship. And the Gray doesn't have any reference to that. The Gray is just following orders. And, of course, the Gray doesn't want to have his ship blown up, so he drops the kid and he gets in his ship and he takes off. So things like that rattle them. I also prove that the name of the Lord, the Bible says, if anyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Saved from anything. We're not talking about afterlife. We're talking about present life. So these beings, are they terrify people. They terrify children. They put a spell on you. They paralyze you. They put you in that kind of like numb state, like what Spock used to do, like nobody can do anything. So, but yet the name of God cuts through it like a knife. So people who say they don't know anything else to say but the name of God. They'll say Jesus, or they'll say Yeshua, or you can say Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzebaot, and they don't know what to do with that. So they drop you. They stop the abduction stops in the process. So that's how humans can get control over these experiences.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I'm. There's completely so much here. This is just
So I didn't answer your
This
question about the reptilians, though. So the reptilians use the grays, but so do the Nordics. The Nordics use grays, the reptilians use grays, which is why some of the abduction experiences have these crossovers. So if you remember, like, one of the most famous abduction experiences, Travis Walton, you know, Fire in the Sky, they made a movie about him, and he was abducted by the grays, but he was, like, kicking and screaming and, wow, let me go, and, you know, he was, like, out of control, right? So what did they do? They sent him humans. So he sees the humans, and he calms down because he thinks, oh, you're one of me now. But that doesn't mean that they really were human. They just appeared as human. And this is another commonality that many experience, and I experience it myself, where they shapeshift. So I have a whole chapter on this in book 1 of how they shapeshift. Not only the reptilians, the grays. So the grays have the ability to shapeshift in this other realm that they take you in. So you think, and this is why so many people like think, oh, their uncle did it, or their father did it, or somebody else was abusing them, because the grays put their face on it so that the people don't see that it's these aliens, and they actually can shapeshift into family members to make you think that the family member is doing this to you.
No, wait, I want to share something with you right here, okay?
Yeah.
I want to share something with you. I was in a dreamlike state, right, in this big white room, and it was just a complete circular room. And in this room, it was so white, it wasn't funny. And but yet my 2 daughters were there sitting on the floor with their hands folded across their chest. It's just relating to what you're saying. And it was one of the experiences that I had. And it's like, it looked like they didn't want to be there. So it's funny when you're saying they're shape-shifting, making people look like they're human, because after I saw my kids, then I felt somewhat okay, although I knew things weren't right. So that's similar to what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Very
and
interesting.
There's a lot of crossovers because they have the ability to take pieces of our memories. They can tap into pieces of our soul memory, and they can, and this is like true vampirism, and they can take it out, and they can put it into either one of their hybrids, or they can put it into another, what they call container or vessel altogether, and make it as if it's their memory when it's your memory. Or they can do that to you. They can put stuff into your head. They can throw things into your, and it's an implant, and make you think, oh, wait a second, I had a past life here, or I must have had this. And it just creates a lot of confusion for the person because you think it's that, but it's really something else. So they've been manipulating us for the longest time. And this is pervasive in cults and religions, and they're pretending to be gods, and they're pretending to be angels. They masquerade as angels, so they deceive a lot of people in like New Age circles where they think they're talking to angels, and they're really the aliens. Okay, they're really demons.
Well, you were saying that there's a war, that there's been a war from these beings over the planet or planets. So can you speak to that? And I want to ask you too, Ella. Now I'm sure we've got a lot of listeners that may want to ask you some questions. Are you going to be open for that?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm here with you for the next hour. I blocked it off, so go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. And so can you speak to that? As a matter of fact, if we want to take, so this is what I'll say to the listeners. We can go ahead and take some questions. Please make sure these are questions to Ella. Otherwise, we can take some psychic questions next week. But if you guys have a question for Ella, please directly ask Ella about this information that we've been talking. So Ella, can we go there real quick? Take a question or two?
Yeah, do you want me to answer your question first before you go to your callers?
Yes, I would love that because it's
the cosmic
so much more. Yep.
So, yes. So there's been, this is ancient. This goes way back. And, like there's different parts of our timeline where we see this happen so people could go study it. So, like, the Bible talks about 2 floods. So the first flood is the first Genesis 1:1, where the Spirit hovers over the waters of the earth, because it was after the first flood, and that was what they called the floods of Lucifer or the floods of Atlantis, Plato. Okay, so that goes, that's in our deep antiquity. So the wars really began during the civilization of Atlantis and Lemuria. And those beings that were there then, and they were doing stuff against, they were transgressing the laws of creation, because they were hybridizing, they were mixing species together that should never have been mixed. Okay, and they were creating monsters and miscreants and all kinds of anomalies and stuff. So the Creator God, yes, the Creator God said that was enough, and so that's why the planet was Atlantis was destroyed, and it was destroyed by water. So while all this drama is happening on this planet with these ETs and these aliens over creation, over humans, over this and over that, meanwhile, we have this other system, okay, that nobody is talking about. So I used to do astrology for 25 years, okay, and I had this near-death experience, and I saw Yeshua, and he told me he was coming back with Nibiru, and I stopped doing astrology then. And why did I stop doing astrology? Because astrologers are not playing with a full deck anymore. They are a full deck of planets and stars, okay? That's what I mean by a full deck. So they're missing out on what is the most influential cosmic influence happening to our planet, to all of us right now as you and I live and breathe and speak. And that is our binary. We have a binary sun. We have a binary twin, which is a dead brown dwarf star, which we call Nemesis. And Nemesis has 7 planets that orbit it. Okay, the planets aren't dead, but the star is. And every so often, due to celestial dynamics, these planets intersect in our solar system. And we know this from our history. Emanuel Velikovsky, for instance, is a good resource because he wrote a book in the 1950s called Worlds in Collision, basically saying how our solar system got the way it is, how did the asteroid belt get there, because it's a broken up planet. And if anyone remembers Star Wars, the original Star Wars starts off with this planet exploding, right? So all this stuff is metaphor, but it's also part of our history because it's real, because that actually did happen, and it's in the Bible. The Bible talks about this other planet breaking up into pieces. So the Sumerians, called it there was Maldek, and there was Marduk, who ruled over Nibiru, and then the Bible also calls it Rahab, and there's all these different names for these planets, and they're all the same thing. And in 2017, I connect this dot to the book you have, Book 5, The Heavens. 2017, we had a really big disclosure that was there's a brown dwarf star real close to us, 4 light years away, with 7 Earth-sized planets. And they named it after their telescope. So now it has a new name. It's the name of their telescope, TRAPPIST-1. But the ancients, the Sumerians called it Nibiru. The Greeks called it Hercules. The Chinese called it the Red Dragon. I mean, it has all these names. Suffice to say, it's there, okay? And every 3,567 years, it comes around the sun, okay, on its orbit, and it passes the Earth. It doesn't hit the Earth. It's not going to hit the Earth, but what does hit the Earth is its debris tail, and it comes with a parade of comets, asteroids, meteorites, and fireballs. Now, if anybody needs to look this up, it's fact that we are seeing a marked uptick in comets. There's a comet in the sky right now as you and I speak. Comets, asteroids, 2 asteroids around the moon now. They're calling it 3 moons. Asteroids, meteorites, and fireballs, uptick that are coming into Earth's atmosphere. Why is that? Because Earth is moving on a trajectory orbital path into Nibiru's debris tail. Okay? Back to the cosmic battle. This battle has been happening over us because the beings, and the Sumerian texts tell us this, Zechariah Sitchin interpreted this, and he called them Anunnaki. And basically that's Sumerian for extraterrestrial. I mean, he broke it down like he who comes from heaven to the earth. Okay, let's call him an ET. So these beings were giants. They came to this planet, and every time they pass, they come. So it's like a harvest, so to speak, where they plant things on this planet, and they come. And you know, the way they tell time and the way we tell time are 2 different things. So the Bible gives us like a primer. It says, a day unto the Lord is like 1,000 years to us, and 1,000 years is like a day. So in the Sumerian, they called it a shar. You know, a shar was like 1 year or 1 trip around the sun. So Nibiru takes 3,567 Earth years, okay, to go to complete its, and they call that 1 year. They call that a shar. Okay, so for them, they're coming back. Okay, they're returning, and they are returning. Now, this is where the prophecy comes in. So the end time prophecies relate to this, and it talks about an end time war that's in the heavens, Star Wars, that the whole world will see. Now, we can all see something at the same time because we all have cell phones now, and whatever happens on one side of the planet, we can see. But this is happening in the heavens, where people are not going to be able to miss this, because they're going to look up at the sky and they're going to see. But what we're in right now are the harbingers, are the signs of this coming. So we're seeing these signs right now. There's a comet in the sky. There's tomorrow's a meteor shower. There's 3 moons. We have 3 moons now. The sun is exploding. The sun is going through one of its most unprecedented solar maximum cycles, and we're not done yet. We haven't even peaked yet. We've had multiple F-class flares. That's why the planet is warming. That's the cause of climate change. Don't let anyone guilt trip you and say it's you or cow farts or curly light bulbs or any of that stuff. This is governed by the sun. And the sun is perturbed because our sun is getting these plasma exchanges with this other system. And like I said, there's 7 planets. So Nibiru hasn't come in yet. Nibiru itself has not passed. The parade of the debris tail comes first, precedes it. But what we are seeing are these other planets that belong to this system eclipse our sun. So I have videos of this, and it's like pinned to my Facebook page on April 8th when we had this big total solar eclipse, remember, this year? Yeah. So we have multiple space telescopes focused on the sun, the SOHO, the LASCO coronagraph, the Helio viewer. There's a whole bunch of them. And it shows you, you know, and it's public, 24/7. Sometimes they black it out, okay, because there's stuff they don't want you to see. So you got to catch it when it's happening, screenshot it. So we watched. Everybody was watching. Everybody was looking up that day. And what shows up in the Helio viewer is not only the eclipse of our sun by our moon, which is going in one direction, but just like a couple of minutes afterwards is another planet going in an opposite direction, eclipsing our sun. I know. It's just wild. And you can see it. I have it pinned to my Facebook page if anybody wants to see it. So, and
was that
this
the
is
two,
not
were those the 2 planets that you were showing? You were showing like 2 planets next to each other? Was that what I was seeing on the show?
On When you looked at the yeah, it's on the YouTube and it's on my Facebook page. Yeah. Mhm.
Cool.
But that
Very
wasn't
cool.
an isolated
Yes.
incident. It happens often. In fact, every 28 days, this planet that is orbiting around our sun eclipses our sun. So we have all this space tech up there that is covering it up. We have a solar simulator that basically comes into play to cover up these eclipses, to keep status quo on Earth, humans, from knowing what's going on. But eventually all this stuff's going to come out. Like, it's hard, and people are seeing it all over the place. I mean, I'm in contact with people all over the planet. They're showing pictures. You know, everyone's looking up, and there's stuff going on in the heavens, and these are harbingers.
Well, let me ask you this. How can people, first off, let me do this real quick because I want to make sure I get this. So how can people contact you, number one, if they want to get any of your books? How can they contact you? Would they contact you if they're having alien experiences? And, you know, would you guide them? I mean, there's so much that you have here, Ella. So first off, how can people contact you to get your books?
Well, my books are on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, but you can also go through my website, who'swhointhecosmiczoo.com, and I only ship to American addresses. So anything international, you got to go to Amazon. And I'm on Facebook, so you can contact me there, or you can contact me on my website and just send me a message through the contact page. It'll come to my email, and I'll email you back. I just need to say, I mean, I'm not a therapist, so I don't, like, I would refer people out, and I do know some really good people that help people get disentangled from the alien interference and alien abductions, and I could absolutely refer you, but I put a lot of stuff in my books that can help as well. So book 1, book 2, book 3, you know, they all have this in it, if that's helpful.
Well, I've had other people come to me that have had implants, and I've had to refer them out also to some people because, you know, I do the psychic work, and I know that some of the hypnosis conferences I've been to also have had people that have worked with people with implants and helped them remove them from the alien stuff. So, you know, when you said that a Kadash, what was the rest of that? And that's one of the ways of calling on God? Okay,
so that's in the Keys of Enoch, J.J. Hurtak, and it works.
Keys of Enoch,
Yep. So basically it's Hebrew for holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. So in my books, I unpack who that is and the words. So Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzibaot, meaning the Lord of hosts. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. So who is this Lord of hosts, and what does that mean? Tzibaot in Hebrew means celestial armies. Okay, so this is something like, so like Psalm 91. Here's a go-to for protection. So if people, and you know, when you're under spiritual attack, let's face it, you're not really clear. It's almost like dark clouds. You can't see, you can't feel, you don't know, you just know something's off, something's not right. It's not. So what do? You got to cut through it. Sometimes you don't know what exactly you're dealing with. You just know that it's not of the light, right? So you can at least discern that because you get that your emotional guidance system barometer is telling you something's off. So Psalm 91 is the go-to psalm, to personalize it, and this is the covenant of God. So a covenant is something that works as an agreement between two people. So it's not unconditional; it's actually conditional. So you have to call on the name of the Lord. You have to put your faith in the Most High God in order to get His angels to fight for you. Okay, so that's what Psalm 91 does, because otherwise, if you're just calling on angels, All right, it's not. You might get the counterfeits if you're not, because the Lord of Hosts means that He is the commander of celestial armies of angels. So you go to Him and you say, I need more angels. Send me angels. I need angels to protect me. I need angels to guide me. I need angels to help me edit my books. I need angels to heal me. I mean, there's angels, ministering spirits for every single thing. Okay? And there's a lot of unemployed angels. And the reason that they're unemployed is because they're waiting for humans to ask the Lord for them. So it's almost like I call myself like a spiritual Karen, because I go straight to the Lord. I don't go to the angels. I go to the Lord, and then He sends me the right angels. Because I've seen this with my own eyes, and I went through many battles in this realm with New Agers and people, and they think, oh, we just got to call on Archangel Michael. Oh, we just got to call on this angel and that angel, and you end up getting the counterfeit. Okay, and then it's just like going from the frying pan into the fire. Your situation doesn't really improve. Maybe you move a peg and you take 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards, and you're just doing the cha-cha, and you're not really getting free. Okay, so cut through all the red tape, and you go straight to the Lord. You speak the Psalm 21 over yourself, and He puts His angels in charge of you, because that's the battle here, is that the battle is between the fallen angels, who are the demonic realm. They masquerade as light. They masquerade as space brothers and ascended masters, and they deceive so many people to get people away from having this personal, one-on-one, intimate relationship with God. With God, with the Creator. Yeah, that's all He wants. Yep. He created you. So people say, well, how do you know that? Because the evidence of the Creator is in the creation, and that's you. You were created, you and everyone listening, you were created in the image and likeness of God. He put His imprint into you. So He's in you already. You just need to call on Him and not go to all these other gods and all these other beings, and He will send, if He needs, armies of angels, teams of them if you need, to fight your battles. And you may not even see, with your own eyes, but you can feel the energy change. You can sleep better. You can feel better. All those things manifest in your physical life. But we have to call on the name of the Lord to be saved.
Yes. And that's Psalm 91, right? Psalm 91? Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Always good for people. I have a lot of people that come to me, and sometimes people have another psychic attack. And so it's really good to know that there are certain, I know certain prayers that I know, but I've heard of certain Psalms too. So thank you for clearing that up, because I'm writing that down for my people and everyone that's sitting here listening. So, do you want to take a moment and see if some people have some questions for you, Ella?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Let me take a peek and see who we have here. And thank you for being on the show tonight, because this is just completely awesome. Hi, caller. Who is this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm Val, and I'm in New York. How are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us, Val. So
You're
what
welcome.
you have for Ella tonight?
Well, since you were talking about the Bible and different, first of all, thank you for sharing everything. I've really enjoyed listening to you, and, I was wowed, to be honest. And thank you for sharing your, some of the intimate, details of your life. That's really, thank you.
Thanks for listening, Dal.
You're welcome. I have a question, since we're talking about the Bible. Maybe you can help me decipher something.
I'll try.
If that's okay. All right.
Of course, please.
Okay. Matthew 17:20. If you have as much faith as a tiny mustard seed, you can move mountains from here to there by saying, mountain, move from here to there, and that mountain will move. So, and if this is not along the lines of, what you discussed, it's okay. I'm okay with that. But I've asked several people with, I'm very faith-filled. I don't have a religion. I believe, as you mentioned, kind of near the end, it's a relationship, a personal relationship between you and God. And that's how I feel. And he knows every thought in my head and knows every piece of hair from the tip of my, head to the tips of my toes. So,
Amen.
I'm frustrated with him at times and go, God, why are you doing that? Okay, you know what you're doing. I'm just frustrated. Okay, you know what you're doing. We're all human. He knows that, though. So he expects me to do it, I'm sure.
Right.
So that's what I would like to know. What exactly does that Bible verse mean? If you have as much faith as a tiny mustard seed, basically it's saying you can do anything. I believe I have that much faith, at least. But when I say, okay, then I want this to happen, whatever this might be at that, and I try not to be greedy with God because he gives me everything I need. But why having that much faith in him doesn't make, at different periods of time, if something, God, I want this to happen. I have faith in you, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, I really do, but, I'm just kind of, why doesn't it happen?
All right. Thank you for that question.
Yes, thank you for that. It's a really good question, and it's deep. There's deep answers. So let me just say, it's not always about you. It's not always about your faith or your lack of faith as to why something doesn't happen the way you want it to be. There's a battle going on every day, and the enemy of your soul doesn't want you to have what God wants you to have, so he stands in the way. And sometimes it's a matter of breaking agreements with stuff from the past that he's still holding on to, because let's not forget who he is. He was put into the role accuser of the brethren. Okay, so think of yourself as standing in a courtroom, and God is the judge, right? And Jesus is your advocate. He's your defense attorney, and the enemy, Satan, is the prosecutor who's pointing a finger at you, and he's trying to get God the judge to punish you for something that you did, so he holds it against you. But Jesus comes along and he says, wait a second, no, she's one of mine, she belongs to me, so whatever she did or didn't do is covered under my covenant. So you can't have her, you can't hurt her, and you can't really, mess with her, okay? So he stands before you, right? But that doesn't mean, see, there's Isaiah 55 says, no, for those who believe, who have faith, and you're one of them, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, right? But it doesn't say the weapon won't be formed. It just says it won't be prospered, okay? So that means that sometimes you're put through certain tests from the enemy, because God doesn't test us. This is something that I was saying earlier with that famous story and, with Abraham. How do we know that that wasn't God? Because it says that the Lord does not test us. The enemy does. So when you're feeling tested, it's not God. It's not God not giving you what you want. It's the enemy interfering in your life. So maybe sometimes it can make you it can cause you, it can create you to press in a little deeper to the Lord, okay? And maybe it's a matter of patience, long-suffering, which are, let's face it, like the Lord is a gardener, right? He wants to produce fruits in us, and those are the fruits of the Spirit. So how do you get the fruits of patience and long-suffering? You got to wait. And patience is just faith in action. It's faith waiting, right? So that's one level of it. The other level that is important here and like why prayers don't get answered and stuff like that is he says that if you abide in me, Jesus says this, if you abide in me and I abide in you, you can ask anything of me according to my will, and it will be done for you. So I don't know what you're asking or not asking of him, but if it's according to his will, it will be done. If it's not according to his will, then he won't let it happen because he's protecting you. So sometimes the world's rejection is actually God's protection. You know, like maybe you want something, but it's really not good for you. You know, it's like parents and children. It's like, oh, no, you can't have that because it's not good for you. It's not, you know, and so sometimes it's that. So the answers are either yes, no, or you're going to have to wait for it. You know, there's three answers.
I love that. I love that. That's perfect. And it is always according to God's universal plan. You know, this or better according to God's universal plan. I've always said it that way, Ella. That's beautiful.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, yes, that's beautiful. And thank you, Val, for that. All right, let's see who we have next online here. Hello, caller. Who is this? Hi. And where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Melissa. So while I'm overwhelmed with all the information, so I guess the question is, Miss, you haven't really like identified yourself. What do you consider yourself for all this knowledge? Because you have to have permission from all this information for them to say like the galactic. They don't. What do you identify yourself as? Respectfully, this is amazing. Are you ET, angel, master, ascended master?
Oh, okay. No, I'm just a human woman here to serve the greater whole. I'm just of the redeemed. That's all. Just
Amen.
Saved by grace. That's all.
That is beautiful. I love that, and thank you so much. That I've never heard anyone ask that before, and that's just really that was really a lovely answer because some people are incarnated angels that have come to the planet. So that was really a great question. Thank you so much for that question. All right, and then let's see who we have next online. And that some people might look at you as an angel, though, Ella. So, I mean, it could be you've got so much information here. It's just certainly a professor for sure. All right, hello, caller. Who is this and where are you calling from? Are you there? Okay, thank you. We have a lot of people that like to call in and listen. So, all right, let's see if this person has a question. Hi, caller. Who is this and where are you calling from? All right, another listener. All right, and then we have one more. And I know who this person is. Kimberly, are you there? Okay, hello. Okay, perhaps listening too. Okay. All right, beautiful. So those were our callers tonight, and we did have a couple more callers, and I know we're toward the end of the show right now. But is there anything else, Ella, that you'd like to share with our listeners regarding your book?
Well, thank you for asking. My new book just came out just a few weeks ago, so it connects the dots to the time, how the time has been manipulated, how calendars have been manipulated, which is why people who make predictions based on dates haven't really been accurate because they keep manipulating things. So this is why I am suggesting people to go with the prophetic calendar and follow that to really gauge where we're at before the end of the age comes. And
where do you get
that at? You can get it on Amazon or on my website. It's Heaven's Witness, Book 6, Connecting the Dots to Mazarot and End Time Prophecies. And I also have chapters in there about the Vatican and the disclosures and their new doctrines about aliens and baptizing aliens, like we were talking about earlier, and what to expect in terms of the war with Israel, and, you know, kind of identifying who the players are. So these are important things to watch, because this is what the Lord told us was going to happen right before he returns. So people need to be ready, you know, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And it's not about holding on to your physical life here, because if your soul is hidden in Christ and rooted in God, and, you know, you have that relationship with the Lord, it's not about, like Val said, it's not about religion. It's about your relationship with God. That's the only thing that matters, because that will ensure that you're written into the life. So in the age to come, which is after the end of this age, so we're coming to the end of the age of Pisces. So Jesus was born at the beginning of the age of Pisces, and you know, it is an astronomical thing. So when the sun rises in the vernal equinox at the beginning of the stars of Aquarius, that's when the age will shift. And all of this stuff that's going to happen, that is happening, and it's just like birth pangs, it's like contractions. They're just getting closer and closer and closer until the rebirth of the new age, which is to come, which is the age of Aquarius, which is when actually heaven comes to earth. And that's the hope. That's the good news, is that that's what we're heading into. And New Agers call it the ascension. But when the Lord returns, his very presence lifts everything up, breaks all the curses. The planet itself, the vibration of the planet itself ascends into the heavenly, which is like coming to earth and causing the earth to become like a star, where it says we won't have any darkness, there won't be any sickness, there won't be any war, there'll be brotherhood and sisterhood and understanding, and we're going to live to be 1,000 years old again. How about that? And that's restoration of humankind. So he promises to do all that, and everyone who is saved, who is redeemed, will be there. So it doesn't matter if you die now; you're gonna be reborn into that. If you're rooted in your faith in Christ and who is the Redeemer. And I prove in this book that he's not just our Redeemer. He is the Redeemer of the universe. And this is the quintessential end time prophecy, is that he is going to bring the universe together. And that means the extraterrestrials and the aliens, who are not the demons. They're not the aliens that God created, that serve the Lord, that serve the universe. Everyone is going to come. He promises that, and I prove that based on Scripture, that he promises to come back and bring everyone together, so we are all one under one king, under one kingdom. The king, and there's no coincidence why Jews have been praying the same prayer for thousands of years. Every prayer, no matter what occasion, starts with the same sentence: "Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe." So people have to question, who is this king that is coming? And and he is the Messiah. So in Hebrew it's called Moshiach Nagid, meaning Messiah King. He is the Messiah King that is coming to bring our galaxy, our universe together. So we have beings. He says, "I have sheep that are not from this pasture." This is John 10:17. Wow. "Sheep that are from this pasture, that I must go, so when I return I can bring them together, so we can all be under one shepherd." And those are who the ETs are. So he's not just here to save us; he's here to save the universe. And I prove this in this book because the Mazarot points to him. The whole divine plan of salvation was written into the stars before it even came to earth. So this is all the divine plan, and it's all unfolding. And you
Beautiful.
and we're all alive at this time for a reason. So,
no doubt about it. You know, I just want to say thank you so much, Ella, for being with us tonight. This has just been just a phenomenal show tonight, and your presence here and all of this enlightenment and all the information you shared with everybody. We just greatly appreciate it. And hopefully you'll be able to join us again at some point. So if you'd like to come back, I'd love to have you back again.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's been my pleasure. It's really good to talk to you.
Thank you. You too. And how can people reach Amazon? Your books are on Amazon, or they can go to your website, who'swhointhecosmiczoo.com?
Yes. Yes,
Beautiful.
who'swhointhecosmiczoo.com, and you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and God bless you all. We love you all. And again, Ella, thank you so much, and hopefully we will talk again soon.
Sure thing. Cosmic blessings to you and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. Good night, everybody.